Hey, yo everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video, and today we're going to be doing another edition of What I Am Thinking. Now, for those of you new to my channel, know nothing about this video series, it is exactly how it sounds. I sit down and I talk about what I am thinking. Now, it can be about anything. It can be about Mitt Romney. It can be about Axe deodorant. Just spruce myself up for you guys. It can be about Daniel Bryan from WWE. Could be about anything, but chances are it'll be related to my comic book universe or my video game universe or something related to my channel. So what am I thinking today? Well, today I would like to talk to you guys about my top 10 favorite comic book artists of all time. Now, before I actually get into the list, the reason why I want to do this video is because I was talking to PMKNight before we did our roundtable wrestling video or podcast. And he was talking a lot about artists, and PMKnight is someone that is very into artists, and it's something that can make or break it for a comic book for him. And I found that interesting. And I've always cared about art. I've always liked art, but it's never been a make or break for me. It's been something that's definitely been important. But art is very important in comic books because not only is it pleasurable for the eyes, visually pleasurable, having a good artist draw a character as well, or it also gives you what your interpretations of what the characters is, how you want characters to look. For example, whether you like Jack Kirby or not, and I'm going to use Jack Kirby as an example a few times in this video because it's Jack Kirby. Whether you like Jack Kirby or not, if his interpretation of Wonder Woman is not what you think Wonder Woman is, you may not like Jack Kirby as much as you may like Jim Lee. And vice versa. If Jim Lee's interpretation of Wolverine is not what you would like, and you like Jack Kirby's, although I don't think Jack Kirby's ever done Wolverine before, could be wrong, it can vary. It depends on, your interpretation of the character. But not only that, action scenes, atmosphere, the story itself are all told through art. And art is very important. Sorry, that Axe deodorant is getting into my throat. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my top 10 countdown for my favorite artists of all time. I'm going to try to provide you with some of their art. It's just a basic picture to give you guys a gist of what they look like. Warning is my video is very biased. This is my favorite artist of all time. And in saying that, and let me just make sure, because okay. In saying that, my art is, the art that I like can be, very much, you'll find a lot of my artists are very much the same. They have a certain tone, a certain ring to them. I kind of like traditional comic book art, but that can be dynamic. I do like some art that is completely different from the norm, but like Neil Adams, I don't like him as a person, but because I met him. But his art is very traditional comic book art. Now, whether or not he'll be on the list here or not is up in the air, but it's kind of very traditional. Jim Lee, George Perez, who else does kind of traditional comic book art, where it's well proportioned, it's well handled, but they always add their own flavor to it, as opposed to maybe doing someone that does a little bit more cartoony art, or maybe someone that does a more painting-like art, like Adam Hughes. He doesn't have traditional comic book art. He's kind of has a unique flavor to his comic book art. It's different. So my art is going to be maybe boring for some and maybe not. It's just what I like. I can't help it. But there's going to be some interesting stuff in there. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump right into this video. Two things is I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can, not only for you guys, but also because I have work in less than an hour. Actually, in like 30 minutes. So got to make this quick. Number two is that I would like to hear your thoughts. What are your favorite artists? What art do you like the most? What is your top 10? Do a video response, or you can comment, or you can send me a message in the mail, the post office mail, with a little heart sticker to seal it. Maybe put some perfume on there, some kisses. And when I open it up, it says that this is a chain letter, and I'm screwed. But anyways, if any of you do that, I'm going to be pissed. Number 10 on Andrew Cutter's top 10 artists that he enjoys, that I enjoy. I'm not a third person. My favorite artist of all time, my number 10 is going to be Alex Ross. Now, Alex Ross, The reason why I put him at number 10 is I like the feeling that Alex Ross gives to his comics. It has a very Silver Age-like feel to it. And when I look at his art, it's very nostalgic. You know, you can just look at Superman, Green Lantern, and Wonder Woman here, and they look very Silver Age-ish, like they came out of the Silver Age. And his art looks very realistic. I mean, some of his characters are jacked and in shape, but they're not overly jacked. Well, Superman is. I'm looking at it right now. I have to look at it. But I also like the way that he does fabric and costumes, that they actually look real on how they handled. So yeah, Alex Ross, number 10. See, gonna try to make this as quick as possible. Um, Number 9 is someone that I just kind of got exposed to, but I've automatically already fallen in love with him. Is Kenneth Rockford, who's done Red Hood and the Outlaws, did some Superman, and actually is jumping back onto Superman with Scott Lobdell, and I think he's done some other stuff. He's of course done some other stuff, but I'm just thinking about what I'm known for. Kenneth Rockford, what I like about him is obviously, you know, the colors play into the art, and he has no control over the colors. But I like how this sounds really silly, so please excuse me. I like how he makes everyone look pretty. I like how in this is it's kind of unrealistic, but everyone's good looking. Even ugly people are good looking. But I like how his art just stands out. I like how he does action scenes and how he poses people. Just look at Red Hood here. He's posed pretty badass. And so far, I haven't found many mistakes in the art and proportions of legs or arms or anything else. So that's something I did like too. But I think he has dynamic art and how he poses people and how he, you know, it tells the story very well. But I just like the look of the art. So Kenneth Rockford. So I like his art, and I think he's a good artist. Number 9. Coming in at number 8 would be Ed Bentz. Ed Bentz, I first really got exposed to was in Justice League and in Birds of Prey. And I like Ed Bentz's art because it's very clean. You can kind of see Superman and Batman there. It's very clean. Everyone is very muscular, and it's very comic book over the top, but I like it for that. The only complaint I can really say about Ed Benz's art is I don't like his earlier art on Birds of Prey as much as I like his art on, say, Justice League or Red Lanterns. And 2 is there's a common thing that people say that all his females look alike, just with different hair. I could argue that, but at the same time, it is pretty noticeable too. Sometimes his females do look often alike. But besides that, I really do like Ed Benz's art. I do like how it's very kind of traditional comic bookiness with the big muscles, and but it is also it's very clean and crisp, and everyone looks clean and crisp. There's not a lot of lines put in there. The shadowing is handled well, and everyone's proportioned, although very muscular, um, still proportioned well. Let me just put the issues there so that they are safe. Coming in at number 7. Yes, we're on 7, right? Yeah, 7. Darwyn Cooke. God, I love Darwyn Cooke's art. What I like about his art is it has that golden age, like 40s, 50s feel to it. I almost want Darwyn Cooke to do art with, you know, my favorite thing Darwyn Cooke has done, he's done Catwoman, he's done a lot of stuff, but I think my favorite thing was Justice League New Frontier. Not Justice League, DC New Frontier. Justice League New Frontier is the movie. But his art has just a very clean, a very simplistic, which is what I like, look to it. And it has kind of that old school golden age feel, and it works so well for those stories. I really do like his art a lot, and it's beautiful. And as you can see, the Before Watchmen here, Minutemen, and it's set in the 80s, but again, it has that older feel to it. Although, no, it's not set in the 80s. Before Watchmen, Minutemen is set in the 40s and 50s or 60s, one of the two. It's set a lot earlier because it deals with the golden age characters of that universe. But again, I like how he does golden age. Moving on to number 6. Again, see, it's like a machine gun. I'm just going through these really quick. Would be Gary Frank. Gary Frank, I haven't had as much exposure as say the previous people that were on my list, but I do like his art a lot. It stands out. I like how he does faces, how the faces look very realistic. My favorite run with him, I do like his Shazam stuff. I think he gets down Shazam, Billy Batson very well, but I did really like his run with Jeff Johns on Superman. I think he's done the best job at making Superman look comic booky, but at the same time making him look like Superman from the movies. So the Christopher Reeve Superman, he did a good job at interpreting that. But I really do like how he does the comic book characters and makes people look realistic. He made Superman realistic of proportion. I mean, Shazam's going to be very unrealistic in his proportions because he's a magical being. But I mean, Superman didn't even look that. He looked cut and jacked, but not like unrealistic. It looks like Christopher Reeve's Superman. But I really do like how he does faces, and I like how he does his lines and how everything's nice, neat, and kind of realistic. So moving on to number 5, we're on the downhill per se. Cliff Chiang would be number 5, and it's mainly for his Wonder Woman stuff. He is the artist for Wonder Woman. I dare say more so than George Perez. What I love about him is he kind of makes Wonder Woman, very. She looks like a Greek person. She looks like she's from Greece. But in addition to that, I really love the face. The face is gorgeous. It's very nicely done, and again, very dynamic poses. Does tell the story very well with the action. The only thing I don't like about what Cliff Chiang does, and it's more or less towards Wonder Woman, is he can make Wonder Woman look a little too big sometimes. Um, but besides that, I mean, the one of the best artists for Wonder Woman. If you're going to do an exclusive Wonder Woman title, it's really great looking stuff. Again, Machine Gun. I'm going through these quickly. 11 minutes. Um, Now, excuse me, because I am going to butcher this individual's last name horribly. But number 4 is 4 is Dustan um Grianne or I don't know, Grianne. I believe it's that. Interesting last name, but oh my god, his art. At first, I didn't know how to feel about it, but it stood out to me so much. Colors play a big part in his art, but what I particularly like about his art is it's up to date, but it has kind of a cartoonish, but not too cartoonish, but it also has kind of a nice 50s or even you could say 30s noir feel to it. I think everyone just, he does his faces in like a square. Like if you look at Zatanna's face here or Catwoman's face, it's very square. Like if you look at Zartan's face, whoops, move it over here. His face is very square, like it's kind of odd, but it works well. Expressions look good on him with his art, and he can even go from doing kind of the face is normal to more dynamic faces, like you see Scarface here, and you see the Mad Hatter here. So can do a very good job, and I kind of just like how he blends lines together. As you can see, Batman here, how Batman's face and the lines are used and how it makes it stand out. I also like how he does Batman's ears short. I like Batman's ears a little bit shorter when doing the art on Batman. But has really dynamic art and really can give, like I said, that almost 50s or that noir feel to the comics. Has a very classical sense. Almost reminds me of like Dick Tracy or The Mask or something along that lines. So number 3 would be Mr. Tony S. Daniel. Now, people get up in arms about Tony Daniel. I don't know why. I think his art is really good. What I particularly like about his art is how well he can blend his art with colors. Now, I don't know if he talks to his colorists at all, but depending on what art, who he's drawing for, it always looks different and it always stands out. Like his recent Detective Comics drawings had a little bit more gray and brown in it, but it blended well with the art. Where if you look at his run here, it's a lot more colorful. You have a lot more colorful characters in there. What I like about Tony Daniel is everything's nicely proportioned. I think his art looks And realistic is a weird way to say it, but it looks very clean and it looks it's also dynamic. I mean, the to even when his characters are standing still and not doing anything, like Dick just looking at Batman's cowl, it tells a story, and that's something important about the art. You know, I remember in this comic, particularly, Dick is beating the shit out of Jason, and Jason's hanging there with blood coming off him, and he's smiling, and just the way that he delivers the smile, or even in this comic, the way that the art delivers Jason slowly slipping into madness. It does a very good. He does a very good job at telling a story and conveying the emotion and atmosphere. But I mean, he does a damn good job at drawing characters. Everyone looks crisp and clean, and I like crisp and cleanness. Um, I really do. I really do. The one thing I could say about it is I don't like how he draws Superman and Wonder Woman. His art is more geared towards Batman stuff for me, where it can be a little bit darker, it can be a little bit more grittier, maybe. Gritty might not be the right term. I don't like that word being thrown around all the time, but his art is a little bit more geared towards Batman, but it still looks good. So, Mr. Tony Daniel coming in at number two again, machine gunning this. Coming in at number two would be from the '80s. George Perez. When I don't think of myself as a drawer or an artist, but I try to draw. I've shown these before. This is in Jealous. He's my paladin from D&D, and this is Lacey, his wife, who is my cleric slash we won't get into it character from D&D. When I do my art, I base it off of George Perez's. The thing about George Perez I like, and I'm talking about George Perez from the '80s because I think he was far superior in the '80s. I blame inkers more now because George Perez's art style is keep it simple, stupid. He can give you great detail in his drawings, but it's very simplistic. If you look at, let's just say, Donna Troy there. Donna Troy doesn't have a lot of lines coming off her. You don't see a lot of facial, maybe like the cheeks or anything defined, but it's very simple, but it's still good looking. And he can convey a lot in that simplicity. And again, I like his stuff from the um, back in the '80s a lot more than I did his stuff with right now. Like if you compare Crisis on Infinite to Infinite Crisis, it almost feels like a different artist. But again, I feel as though that's more of the inker. That someone actually showed a picture drawn by the same artist, but the inking was done in different ways by different inkers, and the art looked completely different. So I don't blame George Perez for that. But George Perez is my inspiration when I try to draw. I try to mirror myself after George Perez. How successful that can be is up in the air because I don't consider myself a good drawer. But George Perez is a good drawer, and he does fantastic work. Again, what I like is it's very traditional comic book art, but by using simplicity, he is able to convey facial expressions. He's able to convey good-looking art, and he's able to tell a story. What great thing about George Perez, and Tony Daniel also does this too. Although George Perez does it to a better degree, is he can draw and write at the same time. So once you have someone that can draw and write at the same time and tell their story, they can tell it with more dynamicness to it. And number one on my list, and this should be no surprise to anyone, but number one would be my good friend Jim Lee. I actually had the pleasure to meet Jim Lee, and he's a nice guy. I felt bad for him because he had like 90 people before and after me to write autographs for, and I guess he was sick that day too. Uh, but I have my Jim Lee autograph up there. You can't see it because of the lighting. With my Frank Whiteley and Neil Adams um, autograph stuff. But Jim Lee, what can I say about Jim Lee? You know what I like about Jim Lee the most is he draws his characters, and I say this a lot, crisp, clean. I like how he proportions bodies. Sometimes it's unrealistic, but I think it looks good. I like how he does faces a lot. And what I particularly like about Jim Lee is he's evolved and grown throughout the years. So you look at his stuff back in the '90s and you look at his stuff now in the 2000s, and it's a drastic change. It looks better. He's grown and he's improved. Whatever faults he may have had back in the day, He doesn't have it now. I would dare anyone to place his X-Men stuff up against his current Justice League stuff, and the changes will be dramatic, and it will be a far superior product now because he's grown and he's learned. I think that's something important about artists. They grow and they learn. Um, but come on, guys, look at that. The artist looks good, and he does everything all the other artists that I say can do. He can tell a story with his art. He can give you atmosphere. He's very diverse. He can draw various different characters and make it work. He can do action very well. There may be hiccups here and there, but on a whole, Jim Lee is my favorite artist of all time. I really do enjoy his art, and I think his art is the best interpretation of certain characters. Like his Batman is my favorite Batman. If I just look at it, I think his Batman's my favorite Batman. His Hal Jordan's my favorite Hal. Um, let me think. I like how he does Wolverine a lot. I like how he does Aquaman also. Superman he does pretty good, but I think I might like Gary Frank's Superman a little bit better, but usually his interpretations of superheroes are my favorite. I think they are often, I always accept them. There's not once that I see a art by Jim Lee and I say, yeah, that doesn't really look like the character. I always say, oh shit, that is Jim Lee's art. Yeah. So Jim Lee is number one as my artist of all time, my favorite artist. Now, where my list will change from time to time, Jim Lee and George Perez are always at the top. Always. If I ever do this list again, you can guarantee Jim Lee and George Perez will be number one and two. Everyone else could change dramatically. But that's my favorite comic book artist of all time. What is yours? Tell me. Please. Video respond or comment down below. I am interested. So with that said, I'm going to end this video here. This is Andrew saying peace out for now.